Ah, man, Lafayette, I was on mute. ETM Hotel, Rennie, Sean, welcome in peace. My name is Sean. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Mossi Warrior Clan YouTube channel. Please like the show, share the show. Um, I'm going to be brief today, but before we get started, I want to play a couple of tracks from our brother B. Dot the God, coming forth by Day album. Please go out support it. It's on all major music networks. It's only about $7. Show some support for the brother, man. He put in a lot of work, a lot of effort to actually put this EP forth and represent for a lot of us in the community and so forth. So without further ado, I want to get into a couple of his tracks, and then I'm gonna get into the real spill.
Who could imagine I'd be the greatest at conscious rapping? I manifested my essence and then I watched it happen. My progression since my adolescence is immaculate. Wise man came to see me like the homie from Nazareth. I grabbed the sugar and the medicine and closed the cabinet. I'm spoon feeding you the truth for those that chose the savage. I put in work like every day, I never slow for Sabbath. Let's tip the scale, I think the ancestors is owed the balance.
That's track one. I would give y'all more, but I'm just gonna leave it right there, man. I was gonna slide through and come through with some more heat, but I don't want YouTube kind of holding up the video for a while, and I do want to kind of get into this build. So um, I'm gonna stop it right there, man. Coming forth by Day. It's the name of the album. B. Dot the God is the title, is the artist. Look him up. B. Dot the God is J.R. Swift. They connected to put forth a project that the community should be receiving well. I don't care who you claiming and what you fooling with. So yeah. Hey, none of that foolishness over here, No, I'm just playing. Peace to everybody in the chat, man. Let's get it going. Let's get it cracking. Yeah, make sure you get that beat out the God. It is fire. I don't know if any brothers gonna be joining me today. I might be doing this thing solo and it's cool. But I don't want to hold everybody up because some people support Father's Day and it is a day that people need to relax and kick back and do their thing. So um, let's go. So welcome to Elmina Castle. Sits off the coast in Ghana. Some people may already be familiar with some of the things that we're going to talk about today, and we want to make sure that we're doing what we need done. Uh, okay, Marcel. Give me a second here. Let's get it going. Let's get it. I'm not gonna be long, man. It's probably 10 or 15 minutes, but maybe maybe on the high side. Notice no music in the background at the beginning of this. So let me keep it moving.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Vasa, top the Kofi Pasa YouTube chat for me. I can't find it. Technological superiority has been an integral part of cross-cultural change throughout history and a crucial factor in European interactions with indigenes. European maritime technology, communication, medical science, and firearms were the tools of empire that secured Europe's dominions in Africa and Asia in the 19th century. There is little question that the conflict that destroyed Elmina in 1873 would have had a different outcome if the Ashanti had possessed Snyder repeating rifles and the British aging flintlocks. Technology was integral to the European expansion, but in viewing this technological maelstrom, we often forget that imported objects were not accepted en masse by non-Western peoples, nor do they immediately imply an acceptance of non-material European beliefs and practices. The context setting at Elmina was very different from those that unfolded in other parts of West Africa. Even in adjacent portions of the Gold Coast, Elmina presented a dramatic contrast to many regions of Africa that remained isolated from direct European contact throughout the 19th century. Even in areas relatively close to the coast, a combination of geographical, technological, and cultural factors limited European activities and constrained European expansion. African-European interactions prior to the late 19th century had a distinctive character as a result of these constraints. Some areas stand out as nuances of activity: the Senegal and Gambia river valleys, coastal Ghana, and the small concentration of European outposts in coastal Benin and Nigeria. The people living along the West African coast at Elmina around the 15th century were presumably Fanti. The Fanti ethnicity bears an uncertain relationship to Akan itself, a word connotating originality from the root word Khan, to be first or original. Among their ancestors were merchants and miners trading gold into Mediterranean and Near East worlds from medieval times. The ancestors of the Akan speakers of the forest, however, undoubtedly came from north of the forest. The people of the West African coast were organized into numerous populations that were drawn according to kinship lines. Family was extremely important in society, and family heads were united in communities under a recognized local authority. Along the Gold Coast, more than 20 independent kingdom states existed. Elmina lay between two different Fanti kingdoms, Fetu and Eguato. While there were a relative degree of interstate rivalry, peoples generally intermingled freely. Trade between localities was important for the economy. The coastal people also had strong trade relations with the Sudanese empires to the north. West Africans nurtured ancient connections to other parts of the world. Common metals trade, iconic artistic forms, and agricultural borrowing showed that trans-Saharan and regional coastal connections thrived. The Portuguese in 1471 were the first Europeans to visit the Gold Coast as such, but not necessarily the first sailors to reach the port. Built in 1482 by Portuguese traders, Elmina Castle was the first European slave trading post in all of sub-Saharan Africa. Located on the western coast of present-day Ghana, it was originally built to protect the gold trade, but following its capture by the Dutch in 1637, it came to serve the Dutch slave trade with Brazil and the Caribbean. The castle came under British ownership in the 1800s. Elmina like other West African slave fortresses, housed luxury suites for the Europeans in the upper levels. The slave dungeons below were cramped and filthy, each cell often housing as many as 200 people at a time, without enough space to even lie down. The floor of the dungeon, as a result of centuries of impact, filth, and human excrement, is now several inches higher than it was when it was built. Excrement was the word. Now, outbreaks of malaria and yellow fever were common. Staircases led directly from the governor's chair to the women's dungeon below. making it easy for him to select personal concubines from amongst the women. At the seaboard side of the castle was the door of no return, the infamous portal through which slaves boarded the ships that would take them on the treacherous journey across the Atlantic known as the Middle Passage. By the 18th century, 30,000 slaves on their way to the North and South America passed through Elmina's door of no return each year. Today, Elmina's economy is sustained by tourism and fishing. Elmina Castle is preserved as a Ghanaian national museum and a monument and is designated as a World Heritage Monument under UNESCO. It offers daily historical tours and is an extremely popular destination for African American tourists seeking to connect with their heritage. Trade between Elmina and Portugal grew throughout the decade following the establishment of the trading post under Gomez. In 1481, the recent crown Jael II decided to build a fort on the coast in order to ensure the protection of this trade, which was once again held as a royal monopoly. King Jael sent all of the materials needed to build the fort on 10 caravels and 2 transport ships. The supplies, which included everything from heavy foundation stones to roof tiles, were sent in pre-fitted form, along with provisions of 600 men under the command of Diego de Azambuju. The fleet set sail on the 12th of December in 1481 and arrived at Elmina in a village called of 2 parts a little over a month later on 19 January 1482. Some historians note that Christopher Columbus was among those to make the voyage to the Gold Coast with this fleet. Upon arrival, Azumbuja contracted a Portuguese trader who had lived at Elmina for some time to arrange and interpret an official meeting with the local chief, Kwame Ansan. Now, let me be brief right here. This chief, okay, and an interpreter are dealing with the Portuguese at this time. I want y'all to peep game. The interpreter from the Portuguese, Caramansa, that's the interpreter's name, concealing his self-interest with allegiant manners and friendliness, Azambuja told the chief of the great advantages in building a fort, including protection from the very powerful king of Portugal. During the meeting, Azamba and the chief Kwame Ansa both participated in a massive peace ritual that included a feast, live musicians, and many participants, both Portuguese and native. The chief, Kwame Ansa, while accepting Azambuja as he had any other Portuguese trader who had arrived on the coast, was wary of a permanent settlement. However, with firm plans already in place, the Portuguese would not be deterred. After offering gifts, making promises, and hinting at consequences of non-compliance, the Portuguese finally received Kwame Ansa's reluctant agreement. It didn't really go down that way, but he did comply with the Portuguese and allowed them to set up shop. And in this peace treaty, they did make peace because the locals or the natives, they wanted some funk. They didn't want to deal with these people coming to build anything. They were rejecting Elmina being built. When construction began the next morning, the chief's reluctance was proved to be well-founded. In order to build in the fort in the most defensible position on the peninsula, the Portuguese had to demolish the homes of some of the villagers who consented only after they had been compensated. The Portuguese also tried to quarry a nearby rock that the people of Elmina, who were animists, believed to be the home of the god of a nearby river, Benet. Prior to the demolition of the quarry and homes, Azamba sent a Portuguese crew member, Jael Bernaldez, with gifts to deliver to the chief, Kwame Ansa, and the villagers. Azamba sent brass basins, showers, and other gifts in hopes of winning the goodwill of the villagers. So they would not be upset during the demolition of their homes in sacred rocks. However, Jael Bernaldez did not deliver the gifts until after construction began, by which time the villagers became upset upon witnessing the demolition without forewarning or compensation. In response to this, the local people forged an attack that resulted in several Portuguese deaths. Finally, an understanding was reached, but continued opposition led the Portuguese to burn the local villages in retaliation. Even in this tense atmosphere, the first story of the tower was completed after only 20 days. This was the result of having brought so much prefabricated building materials. The remainder of the fort and an accompanying church were completed soon afterward, despite resistance. So the villagers rejected. The villagers fought back. The villagers would later be compensated to some degree. They would later burn down in retaliation the villagers' homes. So you have an intense environment, yet they still were able to build one of the stories and a church. So what accompanied this trading post, what was supposed to be a trading post to protect the gold trade relations that they had, or trying to seize a monopoly on, ended up being something totally different. But it accompanied itself with a church. Remember that. Because this is when the missionaries, they don't go nowhere without the missionaries coming in. So here's images of Elmina. You've seen them, they're everywhere. They're all over the net. People, Dr. Ma'at, she actually went to Elmina and she had done an interview inside of the castle with one of the tour guides, if I'm not mistaken. You could check that out on her channel, on Dr. Ma'at's YouTube channel. This image on the left-hand side is commemorated inside of the castle, as you can see right here on the picture in the right-hand side. And it's in everlasting memory of the anguish of our ancestors. May those who died rest in peace. May those who return find their roots. May humanity never again perpetrate such injustice against humanity. We, the living, vow to uphold this. Now, this is again another image of Elmina. This is the historic preservation of St. George Castle in Elmina. The opening of the museum in the former Portuguese church was an important stage in the current history of preservation forts and castles, component of the natural resource conservation and international development under the government of Ghana's Central Region Integrated Development Program. The project, which started in '92 following preliminary studies and infrastructural development by the United Nations Development Program, is due to completed in '97. Architectural conversations work at the castle will be completed by then. A further project will complete the necessary work of historic preservation and equip the building for its future use and international century for conversation studies. But the completion of the current project in '97 will see the main part of the historic building, the oldest and largest and most important of Ghana's historic monuments, made structural sound and watertight, and its future maintenance assured. The forts and castles of Ghana were designated by UNESCO as a group of World Heritage Properties in 1979. Other images of Elmina. Everybody should know what this image is right here. Yep. Some more images of Elmina. This is, on the ocean side. Notice that all the forts, man, have these cannons that set outside those walls where they could fend off incoming ships so that they can protect trade, protect the castle, protect everything. This castle or this slave port actually changed hands numerous times in history. You had the Portuguese, the Dutch, you had the British. I think the French may even got involved at once upon a time. But this thing changed hands a lot of times throughout history. Some more images. Now, you saw the cannons up top. They even had the cannons on the ground. So they were serious about trying to protect this port for their riches. There's more images. The left is a prison cell. On the right is a memorial for one of the governors. A European priest left a personal message underneath saying that the governor was a just, honest, and God-fearing man, the same man that raped women on an almost daily basis. So that's their writings on the right-hand side, where that priest was saying that the governor was a just man and honest, God-fearing. Those are some of their favorite words, by the way. Here's some more images here. Peep this. Slaves were led down this slide that's on the left photo before being led onto the ships through the door of no return on the right. So on the left was a slide. Now water would be running from this, where it would make it easy for them to actually slide down. It's kind of messed up now, over time, of course. But they would slide down and then enter the door of no return. And of course, they had another door that, you got to look at different ports had different doors of no return.
Being here at the castle, walking through the dungeons, walking through the cells. The female dungeon, the male dungeon, and really understanding and grasping the idea that our ancestors went through crazy emotional turmoil and physical abuse.
So many of our interpretations and narratives have been taken out of context. The Africans worship rocks, they worship trees. No, we understand the life force and the life being and everything in this universe and its connectivity. We have to return back to our own narratives and our own truth in order for the African spirit to rise. But just as they suppress that, they suppress you and I, because our humanity is in our culture. So the return represents returning back to the pride and the dignity that we survived with as a people. Our culture, our story, our heritage. That's what we want to take away.
We don't believe in ourselves, and we don't believe in our people, but our ancestors, our forefathers, our foremothers, they fought for dear life. And like our tour guide said, we are descendants of the survivors, of the ones who refuse to die.
The researchers have found it difficult to establish the number of captives who arrived alive. Captives who arrived alive, you don't know the number. Some claim about 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, up to about 100 million. Out of this, we don't know the number of people who died on the sea. We also don't know the number of people who died in the dungeons like this. And there were over 30 of such buildings along the coast of Ghana, even when Ghana was then known as the Gold Coast. Understand? They named each area after the products they got from that area. So we have the Gold Coast, we have the Ivory Coast. We have the Slave Coast. We have the Grain Coast in Nigeria, Ivory Coast. We have the Slave Coast between Ghana and Nigeria, Togo and Benin was known as the Slave Coast. So if they had that number of forts and castles of such nature along the coast of the Gold Coast, what happened on the Slave Coast? We also don't know the number of people who died on their way into the dungeons, and how many people died in the many battles, wars, and raids to capture them. So you can just imagine the number of people who were involved in the trade that lasted for about 400 years.
So literally, they took the African burial ground from New York. They took one remains there with Samuel Carson, great granduncle of Sonny Carson from Brooklyn, New York. And they went to Jamaica and brought back Crystal. And they brought those remains back on Ghana Airways. And then we took a boat from Abanzi. So it'd be like we were bringing them back across the waters. And something phenomenal happened. When those coffins were there in that village in
It's not me, it's the video. If y'all can still hear me, man, the video was kind of acting funny.
Brothers to lift up that coffin, they could not lift up the coffins. They had to call this priest out and priestesses to find out why couldn't nobody lift up those coffins. Because the remains didn't want to go back on that ocean. So they had to perform rituals in order to be able to ask permission for those dead remains to go on those waters to be taken home. So all the fishermen in this area made a corridor and brought those remains in on those boats. And we brought them through this door of return. And to switch back that whole narrative of no longer the door of no return. The African is triumphant. They called back home the sons and daughters of Africa. And so that door was renamed. This is the full circle. 360 degrees. Come to that door of no return. Organize yourself and sacrifices and you come back. Defy the words of those who thought you would never come back. That's full circle. Every voice and sing, but your word can never bring with the harmony of
I'm motivated. I'm sad. I'm happy. I'm mad. But I have a new spirit that birthed me today. We have to fight. We have to continue to fight because they fought and they didn't give up. And we're here because of them. And it is our due diligence and our duty to honor them and to speak their names and to walk in their spirit and to walk in our purpose because they died for us.
Really, they lived for us. If they had not survived, if you really were to trace our literal DNA back to wherever we come from off this coast, if those persons who are our ancestors would have been the ones who jumped off the cliff or toppled over the boat or were murdered or killed or killed themselves or whatever, who didn't survive, who died because of disease or died because of famine. Me, Jay Morrison, Ernestine Morrison wouldn't be here. We wouldn't exist. Gene Bush wouldn't exist if our direct descendants, ancestors had not survived. We don't exist. Some other African or African in America or African Caribbean or African in South America or African Indian or African Australian or wherever out in this diaspora, you might exist, but we don't exist. Had that ancestor not specifically survived.
We are the direct reflection of the genealogy of the most resilient people, of the most strong people on this earth. And we have to walk in that every day.
This is a call out to all Africans. Make your mind. Travel plan. Come back. Ghana, Africa.
Yeah, the sources for the presentation. Please screenshot if you're interested. You can screenshot and you can go back and review my work. Stay tuned for Dr. Ma'ad's bill. She will also go into her information as well, that she did some primary research while she was in Ghana and at the castle. So she's going to get more into the return, and she's going to share her experiences in Ghana, and she will, take this a little bit further based on what she learned while there. I'm sorry, but I did kind of let the ignorance fester a little bit in the chat, and I can kind of see that somebody had made some comments. I don't want to give them any shine in regard to that, but I'm keeping this bite size, and I want to leave it where it is for people to who came in late. I recognize that some people actually came in late, so you can revisit that. And yes, the Dutch took over the castle in the 1600s, 1637, like the text said, but it changed hands a lot. A lot of these, notice that they said in Ghana alone, along that coast, how many ports are in Ghana? And then you get to Nigeria. How many ports exist in between Ghana and Nigeria, and so forth? Now, when we have people in history say that the slave trade happened in reverse, where the ports in the Americas, where bodies could go through this excruciating pain and then be brought to the coast of West Africa, they don't exist. When you have people teaching that they didn't die for us, what do you mean? Our ancestral lineage is directly from West Africa. It happened. We went through excruciating pain. These things happened, and to disregard our ancestors down to they didn't die for us? Are you serious? The same people who laid the foundation of your existence today didn't die for us? Like sacrificing themselves, hiding the women hiding seeds in their hair because they knew when they got where they were going, they were not coming back. Grains of rice, certain, all of these things was hidden in the hair so that they can feed themselves later wherever they were going. They didn't know where they were going or how long it was going to take. The square mileage being transported from the West Coast to South America. The large majority from South America to the Caribbeans, from the Caribbeans to North America. And then some directly from the coast, which we would say about 400,000, some say 380,000 came directly from the west coast of Africa to North America. I'm gonna say about 400,000, but we don't know who died along the way. We do have slave records, or we do have journals that actually get into on this channel. The Tombaro's presentation, we actually show someone's journal where they dialogued how many people died along the way to the Americas, to North America. So we present that information. We will not stand on ignorance on this channel. I do want to say thank you to everybody that actually tuned in. We're going to leave it short and brief and to the point. Please be on the lookout for Dr. Ma'at's presentation. On that note, I do want to say Shemem Hotep, which means go in peace. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, but this will be something that you can revert back to. And we did log it. I want to thank Tammy and her husband, her significant other, Chris, on the video presentation that they put together in 2015 when they returned to Ghana at this particular slave port.
I didn't think your ancestors got paid a fair price, and they took everything. History is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. It is also a compass that people use to find themselves on the map of human geography. History tells of people where they have been, what they have been, where they are, what they are.
Man, again, I'd like to appreciate everybody for tuning in. This one is brought to you by the Mossi Warrior Clan. Spears are flying, pseudos are crying. We don't have to argue with the ignorant. We just present the facts. We stand on primary evidence and research, and we will continue to do what we do as the Mossi Warrior Clan and stand on the shoulders of our ancestors. Again, thank you all for tuning in today. You didn't have to be here. You could have been doing anything else. So I am humbly appreciative for you being here. Stay tuned for more information in the future. I dropped an article this weekend dealing Saturday, yesterday to be exact, dealing with the American Negro Academy. Peep that article out. It is on my personal blog as well as Brother Ben's, BlackPantherSyria.com blog. Grab it on either one, review it. If you want to scrutinize it, you can. You may find something interesting in that you can learn from. So again, on that note, man, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, like I said earlier, spears are flying, pseudos are crying. All right, let me see if I can put it in the chat, Marcel. Let me grab that. Somebody on the panel? Who here? I hear somebody. Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me drop this in the chat for you, Marcel. And anybody else interested in it. Again, man, go pick up Beat Our album, man. He put some work in for the community. You got to represent for those who represent for you. And that's how we rocking. So we don't have to assume, I guess, or anything like that. Mimi, I did unblock you from the channel because we don't kick people out. We just, we want to stand on what we stand on. Ironically, some miseducation has happened along the way. But yeah, we'll get into Cape Verde, Vasa. You should do that. You should do that. Also, stay tuned because I believe on Kofi Pasa TV there should be a presentation this evening. Look forward to that, and y'all enjoy the rest of your day. I just dropped the link to the chat, and we'll go from there. No, that link didn't work. Ah, okay. My bad, Sutek. Yeah, YouTube tripping right now, bro. It was taking me a minute to even get this set up, but my apologies. Take care.